Hey everybody, welcome back to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It feels like it's been forever.
That was emphatic.
I'm just excited. It's Bill Landis, it's Jeremy Birmingham, Austin Ward. We're all back together. We're getting to do snap judgment, some snappy J's. Beat G is on the board. Marvin Harrison is on the Monarch machine. It feels normal. We're back into it.
Feels like September.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let's
start it all over again.
Yeah,
Let's
run it back.
You run it back? Nah, I don't think so. I'm good without it. Ohio State has been officially invited to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and Birmingham, they accepted.
I was not sure how that was going to go. I think this is a weird thing altogether to have to do like 10 days after the actual announcement was made, or 9 or however many. But I'm glad that Ohio State and Gene Smith and Ryan Day decided to move forward with the plans. That would have really thrown everything for a loop if they're like, actually, we're out. We're going to go to Miami instead.
Yeah. That's what we wanted.
But no, I mean, it is fascinating. This is the first time in 55 years of this game that Ohio State gets to play in it. It's only the second ever matchup against Georgia, and the last one was, I think, going to be basically 30 years ago to the day of this Peach Bowl. So there's some cool history there, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. I think the Peach Bowl CEO, Gary Stokan, was like, Ohio State's getting a chance to get healthy. I'm like, see, this guy gets it.
Even he knows.
It's almost like he talked to Ryan Day beforehand.
Yeah, so I mean, they're excited about having Ohio State fans in Atlanta. If you're going, we need to probably do a podcast strictly about like how to get around in Atlanta, where to go, what to do.
Well, that's why we're getting there early, Burn.
Yeah, but not that early. You're the only one that's been to the Peach Bowl before, so
It's true.
As far as the game goes, it should be the bowl game of the bowl season, I think.
Okay, well, the Chick-fil-A propaganda has worked on Birm. He's talking about all the benefits of going to that game.
Yeah, man.
They gave $20 million in charitable giving.
I didn't know that they gave
us a chicken sandwich.
I didn't know they gave each team $4 million. Or like, that's a lot of
money.
Can
that go to the NIL fund?
It really should. Ohio State's like, actually, we can handle travel ourselves. It's only going to cost us like $35. So.
Can we designate where this money should go?
This $2 million for travel can actually just go straight to NIL.
I'll not say what I'm about to say. Anyway, nobody came to Snappy J's to hear more about the Chick-fil-A Bowl logistics. Ryan Day spoke for the first time in 9 days as well, gave some updates. Bill, what was the most interesting thing you learned?
I don't know that I learned a whole.
You don't? Okay. I'll start with this. Travion Henderson.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Probably not going to play, and I'm not sure that it should come as a surprise to anybody based on the litany of issues going on with his leg and his foot. And so, no, I didn't necessarily learn that, but certainly when Ryan Day says these words to you, we'll have an update for you in a couple of days, then you already know what the update is.
Yeah, spoiler alert, the update's not going to be a good one. Not surprising. I'm glad that he was asked so that we don't have to pretend, I guess, leading up to it like he's going to play. I think there's reason to expect that Maya Williams should be pretty okay for that game, if not close to 100%. Probably see some Chip Trainum, maybe some Dallin Hayden, but did not expect Travion to reappear in the plan after the Maryland game. And from Ryan Day's tone and choice of words, it sounds like that's probably going to be the case.
I thought the most interesting thing today was the conversation about Dallin Hayden, and there was really still not a firm answer given as to why they went with Chip Trainum in the Michigan game. And I don't want to pound that drum too much because Chip played pretty darn good. I don't think that you were going to get a much better game out of Hayden than you got out of Trainum. I think the problem with that game is not who was running it, but how much Ohio State ran it and when they went away from the run, as opposed to who was getting the carries. But it just seems like they're like, well, we didn't feel comfortable playing Dallin for some reason in that game. And Bill asked specifically, is this about ball control we don't see because it happens in practice? And they's like, no, not really. So, like, there's got to be something to it. But the point is, you should have 3 healthy running backs heading into the Georgia game. But as you said, Travion Henderson being one of them is not expected.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that.
The reason I said I didn't learn anything is because, like, those are important questions, but there weren't answers to them. And maybe it's a situation where if he's having ball security issues in practice, Ryan Day's not going to stand up at the podium and say that and put the kid on blast like that. I really don't think that's it because it's not happened in a game. I think maybe it's more like a trust thing, sort of what we talked about going into that game, like what's it take for you to want to put a freshman on that stage in an important situation. And I think maybe that came into play with that particular situation. But Chip did play well. It's not, as Austin and I were talking about afterwards, like it's not the decision to not play Dallin Hayden, I didn't have a tremendous outcome on that game. I think it was more like what you said, Berm. It was the willingness to run the ball, but it was still weird decision making. So I found myself still puzzled by it and unsatisfied by the answers.
Especially when you consider the fact that it's not like Chip Trainum had run the ball a bunch of times during the year.
It's like,
that's what makes it really weird.
Yeah.
It's not that it was like, oh, let's play this guy because he's a bigger back or a little bit faster straight line. Or he hadn't carried the ball but one time the entire season, so. That was maybe that was the point. Maybe that was the surprise, right? They're going to pull out the unexpected, but it is weird because this is a guy that played linebacker for the first 8 weeks of the year, so it's not like he would have been more ready for the workload or the hits than Dallin was. But we could probably beat.
Yeah, I think the way I put it to Bill was that it's one of the oddest things that happened on November 26th, but it was also probably one of the least consequential in terms of who was actually on the field because Chip Trainum played well. And I think Bill's point about the overall is that maybe they just should have ran the ball more and it didn't matter who it was, probably more relevant. That conversation is probably very different on New Year's Eve because Mayan Williams with a full month now, really 6 weeks of time since the high ankle sprain, rest, rehabilitation, recovery, all that stuff. You'd think that he's going to be pretty close to full strength. We'll see what that means for the rest of the lineup. It sounds like it's crazy to me that Matt Jones was able to be a game time decision a week after that injury at Maryland, but maybe with a month to go for him that he could play against Georgia. Cameron Brown, we know that he was out for the second half of that game and dealing with an upper body issue. It doesn't seem like a lot of those other guys are going to be ruled out given the amount of time that Ohio State has. And even Gary Stoken's like, wow, this is going to be a more healthy Ohio State. So
I think the important thing is not necessarily the guys you get back from injuries like Maya or Matthew Jones, who we expect to play on both counts. It's the lingering issues for guys like Emeka Egbuka or Denzel Burke, who all
Cade
year,
too, had some
Cade
stuff going
Stover,
on,
who all year had been sort of plugging away and fighting through it. And now they get a chance to really rest. And I think that's where the bigger storyline is going to be. When you're talking about getting healthy, it's not just the clear cut, oh, Mayan Williams had a high ankle sprain. It's Emeka Egbuka couldn't raise his arm for a while, or Cade Stover couldn't walk without his hip feeling like it was out of place or something like that. That's probably a little bit more relevant.
Fresh. They're going to be a fresh team.
Yeah, fresh.
They're going to need to be.
Like Chick-fil-A.
Georgia's very good.
fresh like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man,
it's
Ferg got
that box over there.
fully brainwashed in the Woody team room in there.
Yes.
You guys going to go to the College Football Hall of Fame?
On the 26th, there's supposed to be an event there. So,
oh man,
Bill is
I've
not
always wanted to
going
go there.
on the trip to Atlanta, folks. Who we've talked about it before. He's getting ready to have a baby, so he's going to stay behind, and it's just going to be Austin and I on the road. So, Bill's asking us all these questions out of sheer jealousy, of course.
But also, the full team media day is at the College Football Hall of Fame. So, yeah. But you can go back and forth. I know you love to drive.
Atlanta's not that far. I don't know.
The thought entered my mind, but then the thought of being divorced also entered my mind.
If you just wake up every day and be like, "Is today the day?" and she's like, "Nah," then you're like, "Okay, I'll be back tonight."
I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm not a doctor.
It's different because now Atlanta is drivable. You're on call. You could go home. Anyway, we can talk about our logistics for covering the Peach Bowl another time. Berm, is there anything else that you learned?
No, I mean, obviously a lot of discussion as we've had the last week about NIL and transfer portal and all this stuff was happening today. Pretty much on the heels of Gene Smith coming out and asking for money last week.
Money, please.
Money, please. And people not really responding to that well. I don't think it's something that you're going to get a clear-cut answer for ever in this sort of scenario. And that's why it's sort of frustrating that A, it gets brought up the way it was last week, but B, that it's going to be rehashed over and over like it was today by people asking about it and how NIL specifically, what do they need? How can they get it? Ryan Day does not want to stand in front of a room full of media people and say, we need your money.
Yeah.
But he was basically standing up front there today saying, we need your money. So that's a weird spot for those guys to be in. But again, as we talked about ad nauseum in the last week, like this is where college football is. Ryan Day said it a couple times today. This is where it is. So this is real life, and you're going to have to figure out how to get on board with it.
Yeah, I think really it's wrapped up in a bunch of issues at once. And you look at the 9 days since Ryan Day was given an invitation to the Peach Bowl, which was not, I guess, official at that point or accepted.
They could have just rescinded it.
I don't know how all that works, but they did get a physical letter handed to them today.
What do you think it said?
It said,
you just got invited. You just got invited.
Check yes or no. It's, And they hit, yes, good for them. But think about all of the time that they've had to go spend recruiting, dealing with name, image, and likeness, and funding for that, and the transfer portal. Kevin Wilson taking the job at Tulsa, and now having to do 2 jobs at once, not sleeping for the entire month, and Ryan Day clearly not sleeping a great amount either, because in the midst of all of that, Ohio State is trying to prepare for the college football playoff. So they're going to practice in here today. Then they're going to disperse the
Ryan
coaching
Day's gonna
staff
get on an airplane and head back to Atlanta.
to do some work there,
Beach Bowl prep.
then come back
Take
for
a
a
look at
practice.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Scouting, yeah, I'm sure. Let Quinn Temple go and get a look at the logistics for prep that week. Then come back and have another practice on Thursday. This is still the fundamental part of camp. Doesn't matter. Like, that almost is secondary to everything else going on in his mind, and that's crazy because they're trying to beat G.
Trying to beat G back there.
In 18 days? It's crazy.
This is what we've asked ourselves how many times on the podcast daily in the last. What are we doing? Like, what is the possible reason or rationale to cram all this into the same 2 week window? And it's so stupid. And then you see someone like Ryan Day, who's doing his best to just not fall asleep up there. The guy is clearly exhausted.
When they turned off the lights to put on the 3-minute Peach Bowl hype video,
Yeah.
Eyes immediately closed. It's
That
not
was
great.
weird, by the way. That was a weird video.
like
We're
gonna
by
cover-
DJ Shockley.
we're already going to cover the game. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
convince us. Well, not
It was-
you.
yeah.
Did it change your mind?
Didn't sway me.
Whoa, Mario Andretti racing?
That actually looks so fun.
Go-karts.
Sorry.
That did look fun.
Sorry, Malcolm Landis. You're going to have to be on the back burner.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Anyway, how do you justify putting all this happening at one time? That's the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Well, part of it is we can go off on this tangent. We were talking about it afterward. Guys want to find their spot so they can roll in January. So I think as long as that exists, then this month is going to be pure chaos.
It's this problem that people have in general, where there's very often nobody asking what then, like what happens then. And Ryan's saying, let's move this back. It's, well, then what? Then you have early enrollment in March, in June. You have to change the entire school year around. But then we can just stop pretending that this is about academics anymore.
Well, that would certainly be interesting if people were allowed to magically enroll in their schools in March.
Well, what if they just enrolled whatever the hell they wanted? This is college football now. This is minor league professional sports. So, like, why do they need to go to class? You get it graded. You get a degree based on how well you played.
Football should be a degree. I'd listen to that.
That would be a great episode of The Daily. Maybe we'll get to that later on. This has been a very scattered return of snap judgments, but there's a lot going on in December. We're trying to process it all, just like everybody else, and certainly like the people in these offices behind us over here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Great to be back in here on a Tuesday for some Snappy Jays with Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. We'll talk to you guys later.